You know, I never thought I'd see the day when Sean Diddy Combs, yeah, the same guy who used to throw million-dollar parties and rub shoulders with every big name in the music industry, would be sitting in a courtroom facing charges like this. But that's exactly where we are. The trial had been going on for a couple of weeks by then, and things were getting more intense by the day. This wasn't just a civil suit or some slap-on-the-wrist kind of deal. No, this was federal court. Diddy was being charged with some of the most serious crimes you can think of: sex trafficking, racketeering, and conspiracy, the kind of charges that carry decades behind bars if he's found guilty. Now, I remember how it started making waves in the media. At first, people thought it was just another celebrity scandal. You know how those go. They flare up, people gossip, and then they fade out. But this one, it was different. The tone shifted quickly. It wasn't just some tabloid story. The allegations coming out were heavy, painful. There were stories of women being manipulated, coerced, and hurt. People started looking at Diddy, not as some untouchable music mogul, but as someone who might have used his power in truly awful ways. And as the days ticked by, more and more eyes turned toward the courtroom. News outlets couldn't get enough of it. Social media was flooded with every little detail, real or imagined. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a theory. But here's the thing that really struck me. It wasn't just the usual gossip crowd paying attention anymore. Folks who'd grown up listening to Bad Boy records, who remembered the shiny suits and flashy videos from the 90s, they were watching too. This wasn't just about celebrity drama. This felt personal for a lot of people. It was day 14 of the trial that really got the internet buzzing like crazy, but I'll get to that. Before we reach that part, you've got to understand just how high the tension was. By then, the prosecution had already laid out a mountain of disturbing evidence. Witnesses had taken the stand, each one adding another layer to the story, some heartbreaking, some downright shocking. People were waiting for bombshells. And with the kind of names floating around the trial, former assistants, ex-partners, and high-profile celebrities, everyone was holding their breath for the next headline. Then, out of nowhere, a new rumor started swirling, and let me tell you, it was a doozy. So there we were, day 14 of the trial. By that point, folks were glued to their screens. The courtroom updates were coming in every few hours, and speculation was flying left and right. Then suddenly, like someone had dropped a match in dry grass, a wild rumor exploded across the internet. A video popped up on YouTube. It was titled something dramatic like, "1 minute ago, Brad Pitt testifies in court on day 14th of Diddy Trial." That title alone was enough to stop people in their tracks. I mean, Brad Pitt? That Brad Pitt? One of the biggest stars in Hollywood, getting involved in a criminal trial like this? People couldn't click fast enough. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, it had racked up thousands, maybe even millions, of views. And the claims it made? Absolutely outrageous. According to the video, Brad Pitt had been called in as a witness. It said he testified under oath that Diddy had forced him to take part in strange, cult-like rituals. I kid you not. They were saying Brad was made to sit in scalding hot water with other men as some kind of loyalty test. There were even claims about humiliating ceremonies and psychological manipulation, the kind of stuff that sounded like it came straight out of a horror movie or some conspiracy forum. And the way the video was edited made it even more believable to people who weren't paying close attention. It had dramatic music, it flashed courtroom images. The voiceover sounded serious. They even showed old photos of Brad Pitt looking stressed. Like that somehow confirmed the whole thing. No real footage, of course, just slick editing and a very confident narrator. People started talking. Tweets flew out. TikToks were made. Comment sections exploded. Wait, why would Brad Pitt be involved in this? I knew Hollywood was full of secrets. If Brad's testifying, this thing is bigger than we thought. It didn't matter that none of it was proven. People were ready to believe it because it felt shocking enough to be true. And let me tell you, for a few hours there, you couldn't escape it. Even folks who hadn't been following the trial from the start suddenly jumped in because the idea of Brad Pitt being dragged into this scandal was just too juicy to ignore. It was the kind of story that bypassed logic and went straight for emotion. Outrage, curiosity, fear. You name it. The rumor had it all. But what folks didn't realize, at least not right away, was that the whole thing was built on a lie. Now here's where things started to unravel. After all the buzz and wild speculation, some folks finally took a step back and said, "Wait a second, did Brad Pitt really testify? Did that actually happen?" And that's when people started digging. It didn't take long before the truth came out. The whole video, the one claiming Brad had taken the stand and revealed all these disturbing secrets, was completely fake, made up. Not a shred of it was real. Turns out, the video was produced using AI-generated content. The narrator wasn't a journalist or a courtroom insider. It was just a voiceover reading a dramatic script. The images of Brad Pitt, old pictures taken from red carpets or movie premieres, repurposed to fit the story, and the so-called courtroom footage, stock clips. Nothing tied to the actual trial. But here's the kicker. If you watched closely, there was a tiny disclaimer hidden in the video. Description. Something along the lines of, "This content is a work of fiction and for entertainment purposes only." It was buried so far down, most people didn't even see it. By the time people realized they'd been duped, the damage was already done. The video had been viewed, shared, reposted, and turned into dozens of spin-off clips. Some people still believed it even after it was debunked, because once a story like that gets lodged in your brain, it's hard to shake. Meanwhile, real journalists and legal analysts confirmed what had actually happened in court that day. And no, it wasn't Brad Pitt on the witness stand. It was someone named Capricorn Clark. She used to be Diddy's assistant, and from what was reported, her testimony was powerful in its own right. She spoke about the inner workings of Diddy's world, the control, the manipulation, the things people weren't supposed to see. But of course, that didn't make headlines like Brad Pitt forced into cult baths did. The contrast between reality and rumor couldn't have been clearer. On one hand, you had a woman telling her truth about what she saw and experienced, while working closely with a powerful man. On the other, you had a fake video built for clicks and shock value. And sadly, for a moment there, the fiction drowned out the fact. Now this whole situation, where a false story about Brad Pitt testifying got blown way out of proportion, really shines a light on something bigger, something that's been growing quietly for years: the power of misinformation. You see, it's not just about one fake video or one misleading headline. It's about how quickly and easily stuff like that spreads, especially online. We live in a time where news travels faster than ever. A single post, a short clip, or even a rumor can reach millions within minutes. And because everyone's glued to their phones, scrolling through feeds packed with opinions, jokes, and breaking news, it's easy to get caught up without stopping to think, is this really true? That's exactly what happened here. Brad Pitt's story was wild, dramatic, and attention-grabbing, so people shared it without checking the facts. It felt sensational enough that folks wanted to believe it, even if deep down something didn't quite add up. And that's where it gets dangerous. Misinformation like this doesn't just confuse people, it distorts the truth. It can overshadow the voices of real victims and witnesses, distract from serious issues, and even damage reputations unfairly. When fake stories mix with real events, it becomes harder to know what to trust. Plus, there's a kind of emotional trap in it. When something shocking comes along, it pulls at our feelings: fear, anger, curiosity, and that makes us react quickly, sometimes without thinking. In this case, instead of focusing on the real trial, the serious allegations, and the experiences of people who came forward, the spotlight shifted to a made-up drama starring a Hollywood actor. It's a reminder for all of us to be careful about what we believe and share, to pause, ask questions, and look for reliable sources. Because when it comes to stories as important as this, the truth deserves to be heard clearly, without noise and without distortion. When all was said and done, the real story wasn't about a celebrity name dropped into a wild rumor. It was about the ongoing trial itself, about the serious and painful allegations that lay at its heart. The trial continued with witnesses coming forward, each sharing difficult truths about what they had seen and endured. These were stories that deserved attention, stories that carried weight far beyond headlines or gossip. It reminded me, sometimes painfully, how power and influence can be used to hurt others, and how important it is to listen carefully to those who speak out. No flashy scandal or viral video can take away from the experiences of those who bravely step into the courtroom to tell their side. And beyond the trial, this whole episode made it clear just how important it is to focus on facts, not fiction, to support victims, to hold people accountable, regardless of their fame or fortune. Because in the end, what really matters isn't the noise of rumors or the lure of celebrity drama. It's the truth and the hope that justice can be served. So when you hear a story that sounds too wild to be true, remember to take a breath, look deeper, and maybe, just maybe, listen a little more carefully to the real voices behind the headlines.